Isaiah Likely, 80 good red zone targets, the tight end at the top of the screen. 2nd and 2. Henry running right to the goal line and in. Let's see. Yes, he is in for the touchdown. Mahomes fires. Running. Xavier again. Worthy for a touchdown. Number 1 has 2 tonight. Rush 4. Lamar trying to make magic happen. Throw it end zone. Likely 2 feet down. Yes! Touchdown! What a play! Isaiah Likely!
Is there enough to overturn?
Oh, that's on the line, isn't it? I think.
Terry McCauley's going to have to make this call, but it looks like that toe's on the line, Terry.
I agree completely.
What's going on, everybody? It's AKW back at it again with another video, and today we're breaking down / reacting to the NFL kickoff game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, man. And I gotta say, this was a great game. I was tuning in and out of it. I was, playing a little Call of Duty, watching some TV on the side or whatever, but this was a good game, man. And for this to be the NFL opener, I think, the schedule makers are doing what we all want to see. Coming into this game, the big questions were, can the Ravens dethrone the Chiefs? Can they get past their biggest hump from last season and ultimately defeat, the back-to-back 2-time Super Bowl champions on their home field while they're doing the ring ceremony, all that good stuff? And the answer to that was no. And I picked the Chiefs going into this game. A lot of people picked the Ravens. A lot of people picked Baltimore to win, and they almost did win. Or they had a chance to win. Obviously, you see the image on the screen is the last play of the game. Isaiah Likely toe was just right on the out-of-bounds marker, just by like an inch. A crazy ending, man. Ravens run that final drive, 2-minute drill. Lamar was dicing them up. And they get to the red zone. I think the play before they get it down with 10 seconds and Lamar misses, Zay Flowers wide open in the end zone. And I'm not going to fault Lamar on that one play, because if you look at that play, Zay's running and I think Lamar wants him to stop and Zay just keeps running and, miscommunication. But the Ravens were driving on that drive, and they made it to the end zone. They got one more play with 4 seconds to go. And you think it's a touchdown. They review it, and Likely's foot is on the line. But I think that would summarize kind of how this game was being played for the Ravens the entire time. I think, opening drive, they get out early. And, they get the Derrick Henry touchdown. And Kansas City strikes back immediately with an Xavier Worthy touchdown. And then from kind of the rest of that first half, it's a bit of a defensive matchup, kind of what we saw in the AFC title game. Not really one team getting out too far in front of the other. But I think, at halftime it was 13-10. And I think the Ravens had a chance to tie or take the lead and going into halftime, but they just didn't. Second half runs around. Chiefs get back on top, and then Ravens, try to claw their way back to victory, and they almost do. But like I said, I think this was a really great game. I think this man right here on the screen, Rashee Rice, he had a great game. 7 receptions, 103 yards, no touchdowns, but I didn't really realize how fast this guy was. You talk about the Chiefs, they already have Xavier Worthy. But if you pair Xavier Worthy with this guy, Rashee Rice was running fast, man. And when you talk about last season, and a lot of people say the Chiefs didn't really have that many weapons or the receivers weren't doing their job, it doesn't seem like that's the case this season. They already have Travis Kelce. who's the best tight end in the game, and then you put along a rookie receiver and Xavier Worthy, who's got, the fastest combine time for the 40-yard dash in history. And then you can add in some more weapons like a Rashee Rice. You've got Pacheco on the ground. You brought in Juju. You got guys like Noah Gray, Justin Watson. So the Chiefs have weapons. And Mahomes was spreading the ball to pretty much most of the guys like he usually does. But Rashee was kind of their main star, and I think he was really the reason that they were able to win this game, because the yards after the catch, that kills teams, and he was getting in open spaces. And I was a little bit surprised that the Ravens DBs kind of let one guy sort of tear them apart. And I think when you've got a Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy, when you've got all these different type of weapons, of course you can't have your eyes on all of them. So I guess it was just Rasheed's night, and he had a good game. And I think the Chiefs' offense overall, I don't think they showed their hand. I don't think they showed everything that they're going to do. And if you've been watching the Chiefs over kind of like the last few years, they kind of start off the beginning of the season, I don't want to say slow, but, they lost last year's opener against Detroit. And usually in the beginning of the season, they might lose a game that we don't expect them to lose. I think they lost to Indianapolis a couple years ago on the road in the beginning of the season. But I think their offense looked really good for what they showed. I think Worthy's going to be a threat. I think you're still going to have Kelce there. And I was surprised they gave Worthy, I thought they were going to work him in. He only had the 2 touches, I think. But for those to be 2 touchdowns, it just says a lot about him, Talking more about the Ravens, I think, again, Lamar played probably one of the best games I've ever seen him play. And I don't think you can come away from this game thinking that it was Lamar's fault that they lost. Because he had 273 yards in the air. He had 1 touchdown. And he also had 122 yards on the ground. So Lamar in total had 395 yards, almost 400 yards all scrimmage, from a quarterback. And if we just take that number alone, we'll probably think that the Ravens won the game. If Lamar had 200 plus passing yards and 100 plus rushing yards, you're probably going to assume that Lamar won the game. And I think the Ravens offense looked well in the passing aspect. I think I wanted to see more from Flowers. I wanted to see more from Mark Andrews. I know he's getting back from injury. But the guy who I wanted to see a lot more from, and I thought we were going to see just a little bit more impact, was Derrick Henry. And I was talking to my friends about the game. I was like, how do the Ravens win this game? They have to keep Mahomes off the field. And I think they were winning the time of possession battle for most of the game. I'm not sure. I probably just have to verify that. But look at the box score. Derrick Henry only had 13 carries for 46 yards. And now he had a touchdown on the opening drive, and you can kind of see that it looked like they were going to feed, Henry all game. Now, is that game planning, or is that, the Chiefs' defense that kind of stopped them from doing what they wanted to do on the ground? I think it was a bit of both. Lamar had 41 passing attempts, which is probably what you don't want from Lamar. But for a guy you bring in who, last season, what was the reason you lost? People keep saying because you couldn't run the ball. Now, I think it's because Lamar wasn't performing well in that playoff game against Kansas City last year, but a lot of people say it's because you weren't running the ball effectively in that game. Now, you bring in a guy like Derrick Henry, it's the same team you lost to, and you only give him 13 attempts. I don't think that's going to, and I know it's only week 1, but I think if you feed him, 15, 18, 20 times, you can still spread the ball out. You can still do things where Lamar can run, because Lamar was doing most of the running for this team. And I was surprised they didn't work in more, option reads or RPOs where you can fake it to Henry, or Lamar can take off, or Lamar can fake the takeoff and Henry can run up the middle. Now I know she's got Chris Jones and a great defense, but you got to give your best players the ball. And in that fourth quarter, man, Derrick was nowhere to be found. And I know you're behind, and I know he's not a guy who, isn't really the biggest vertical threat, but I feel like you have to have your best players on the field, even if, you know, what can Henry add? He can catch the ball, you know, and if anything, he can pass block and kind of give him more and more time. But I just kind of feel like they underutilized him. I know it's only week one. Derrick Henry will probably have a 1,000-yard season, you know, 10 plus touchdowns. But if you're Todd Monken, you know, if you're, you know, John Harbaugh, you kind of got to look back at the tape and say we got to give our guy more touches, because outside of Lamar and outside of Isaiah Likely, you know, their biggest weapon that they could have used was probably Derrick Henry. You know, Zay Flowers didn't have the biggest game. Mark Andrews, like I said, didn't have the biggest game. And the guy you bring in, the guy who, you know, multiple teams were trying to get after, you know, underutilize him. And I think that really costs him, because the longer you keep Mahomes on the field, the more points that the Chiefs are probably going to score, and the harder it is for you to be able to, you know, retake the lead. And we kind of saw that. But ultimately, I think people are going to look at this game and kind of just sum it up to this last play, where Likely's toe is literally just on the out-of-bounds marker. And, you know, that's just crazy, because when they first threw the pass, I didn't know if he got in, because it just looked really close, and they reviewed it, and then we saw that he didn't get the touchdown. But, man, this was a good game, you know, and I think we got another game tonight. We got Green Bay versus Philadelphia. I'm picking Green Bay to win that. I think Jordan Love is going to show you guys what he really is about. I think that's going to be a good game, too. We'll probably do a reaction, but, you know, the AFC showed what it's about, and we're probably going to see these two teams somewhere down the line in the playoffs. I mean, the Chiefs are going for the three-peat, and the Ravens are looking to kind of get back to Super Bowl glory, which is something they haven't seen in quite some time. And look, they had the team. They only lost by a touchdown, and if Likely's foot is kind of like the Kevin Durant situation a few years ago, if his foot is just a little bit, you know, closer inside, I mean, this could be a tie game, or it looked like the Ravens were going to go for two and try to, you know, beat Kansas City on one more play. But comment down below what you think of the game, man. If you want to see more of these videos or anything like that, just comment down below. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
This is probably the worst game we're going to play all year. So if this is their best that they got, I mean, good luck in the postseason.